Hour 2 OverDrive continues, powered by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Bryan Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Frankie Corrado. We've got Lock or Not a Lock later this hour, where we will be welcoming players to the 2026 men's national team for the Olympic Games next year. We look forward to that in a half an hour. And Mike Johnson coming up. Johnny was in the building last night, get his take on everything. And I think it's safe to say Jordan Binnington is a lock to make the team. He's clearly going to be one of the three goalies.
Yeah, there's a few guys where they're a lock to make the team potentially. There's no Jerry's. It's either, you can't go confirm or deny. But is there guys where it's like you're a lock to make the team, but your status on the team might be a lot different? I don't know. Maybe that is for Binnington.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Do you think he's a lock to start Game 1 next year at the Olympic Games? A lock because of last night?
100%. 100% lock. You think after seeing, like John Cooper, after seeing what he saw last night, he's going to say, actually, I'm going to try someone else? Like, did you see them after the game? Cooper's hugging him. He's talking in his ear. He's, like, pumping him up. I think that's enough right there for me to say he's starting Game 1 next year.
Well, think about this. Who would you possibly think that could rise up from the ashes and say, now, actually, he's going to be our guy? Who would that be? Do you think Sam Montembeault is going to play from now until Christmas of next year, and you're going to watch him and say, you just got to put him in the net? Like, who are you going to watch and say,
the only answer is Logan Thompson. That's honestly the only answer because of how well he's played this year.
It's a great point.
Right, but what if he's average? What if he's just an average goalie with a .904 next year?
Then I do believe Binnington will get the nod Game 1 out of respect to how they feel about him, what he did last night, how well he played. He shut everybody up, and he was phenomenal. But let's say Thompson continues at this pace and has a great playoff run. They get to a conference final, and he's phenomenal. And then next year he's playing really well, and he's clearly the best Canadian goalie at that point, like the way he's playing. Mm-hmm. Then, the conversation will be had in terms of if you put him in for Game 2, if he plays well, what do you do? I think what will be difficult for any other goalie to overcome is now what Binnington has cemented is he's a big game goalie. He's the guy that is capable of showing up and making massive saves, and it's just such a huge benefit to get there first and to do it and have everyone see it. Where with Thompson and everyone else, you're just imagining what that's going to look like.
I know, but hockey people, they're what I would call greedy competitive, where they're like, Binnington, you were the guy in Boston that night, but if they start licking their chops over something else, they'll be like the Screech picture. Like
Binnington in the corner, Screech.
Yeah,
I also think there's an element of Binnington where he loves being the guy that's counted out, the guy that's the underdog. Like he's kind of done it a lot in his career. In the OHL, it was his draft year. He won the starter's job for the Owen Sound Attack, and then they won the OHL championship that year. They went up against Mississauga, who was like heavily favored, and he won. And then, you fast forward to the NHL, he's, in the AHL, not even playing for his team's proper affiliate, started in the Coast, and then works his way up. He's the underdog against the Bruins, Tuukka Rask. He wins. Mm-hmm. And then he's the underdog last night. Connor Hellebuck's the best goalie in the world. Jordan Binnington was the best goalie in that game. Yep. Underdog again, finds a way to win. There's just something about that, man, where you can't count that guy out.
It's a great point. That's been his whole career. And the chip on the shoulder, we haven't mentioned Hellebuck yet. It was a brilliant shot by McDavid. I mean, it was like tic-tac-toe, shelf, quick. But, was there any of those goals you can look back and say Hellebuck should take some heat? The Bennett goal was a great shot. He got it up quick.
The only one is McKinnon. It's like, can you not? You got to find the puck or whatever. But it's like there was heavy screenage, and that little McKinnon wrister, man. Like, I just wish people could see that thing up close and personal. Him and Makar, they have these little sizzler wrister shots that are like Al McInnes slap shots. They're outrageous, man.
Yeah. The two of them on the same team is disgusting.
It is, man. Like they must just say, hey, when we're out there, don't look at anyone else. Don't acknowledge they're alive. Let's do give and goes wherever we are, and no one else gets to touch it. They're that good. Imagine those guys getting a tired fourth line on a shift in the offensive zone.
Yeah, good luck, man.
Lights
Salivating.
out Trout gone. Like they're so fast and so good, and they have that engine where they want to crush you. They're going to be like, no, we'll skate you into the ground, and then we'll skate you into the ground a little bit more, and then we're going to score. And then the next time we're on against you, we're going to do it again. Makar's sick, man.
He's
sick.
was jumping last night.
What a difference it is having him in that game, where it's like the first time they played the United States, the States were heavy, they disrupted a lot, the middle of the ice, there was just not a lot available. And then you get a guy that, once he gets it behind his own goal line, can make like a tape through the middle pass. That is the difference in spending another 15 to 25 seconds in your own zone and now exiting. And you do that 4 times a night. You know what a difference that makes in the grand scheme of things, not spending that time in your own zone, just being able to alleviate that. And he's such a difference maker. And then you add the stuff that he does at the offensive blue line. It's hard to compare.
Oh man, he's got no pulse. Like between him and Quinn Hughes, the way they walk the line, and they will go cross ice passing that is like no one else in the league has that green light. Like no one else.
If there was a draft in that game last night, like who are you taking first overall? Is it a slam dunk McDavid's your first overall pick?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, before the game you're saying, or after we saw how it played
Okay, let's
out?
take McDavid out of the equation. Who's the first overall pick after McDavid?
Wait, just based on their performance in last night's game?
No, just if you're
going into the game based on who they are?
Just
McKinnon.
After the game, who they are, like what do you got?
Yeah,
McDavid's
I guess McKinnon. I guess I'd go. I don't think there's a downside of taking Nathan McKinnon the way he's.
I would think long and hard about Makar.
Yeah, I think you absolutely could, and yet you can make a case for the grizzled veterans like Sid, who he wasn't standing out last night. I didn't think he had his best game, but he was fine. But then you look at Drew Doughty, who is a lifer now, and he steps in. He was playing. That was his 7th game of the year or whatever last night.
Thought he was awesome, man. Welcome to Team
great.
Canada. Let's see what Johnny thinks.
All right, here's Mike Johnson, our TSN hockey analyst, joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. What's happening, Johnny?
What's going on, fellas? I'm finally back in Toronto. I spent the week in Boston, trapped there because I couldn't go anywhere between games, but was there last night. I was with you in Montreal, sitting beside you watching the game. And I will say for sure, the game was great. We'll get all into it. But the atmosphere, and it's not because I'm Canadian at all, it was nowhere near what it was in Montreal. It wasn't even close. It wasn't even close. It was tense, and it was tight, and it was nervy, but just sort of that energy, that buzz that is palpable, it just wasn't quite the same.
Yeah.
Hazy would be happy to hear that, because at the beginning of the show, Hazy said, Johnny, he's just so pumped to be Canadian. They're the best. They always win these games, and he loved every second of it.
Well, it's okay to love every second of it, and they tend to win these games. You and I have had so many conversations about this tournament over the time, and you've said you've always said, yeah, you know what, you may like the depth of the American roster or whatever, but Canada has the best players. And sometimes the best players in games like this is enough when the rest of the roster is really quite good. And that's what this tournament was. This tournament was a testament to McKinnon, Crosby, McDavid. And I think somebody will tally up the final thing, but I think it's like Canada scored 14 goals in the tournament, something like that. And those guys were in on 12 of them. At least one of them will get a point on 12 of them. Like, it was driven, exactly as you said, by the stars of the team. They were the difference makers in a very close tournament, in a very close final game. And if you're asking me who I would take, Makar is incredible. But I think I'd take McKinnon. I think in those kind of games where it's sort of the skill, but also like you need the physicality to get there, McKinnon offers that rare duo of like the power and the talent to create offense in those games. But you go wrong either way. But I think I'd go McKinnon. He's just a bull. Like, I don't know if you guys saw the one play on a back check. Jack Hughes, nifty, incredible player. He tried to pull a stop up on McKinnon. McKinnon hit him, basically picked him up 3 feet in the air, just sat him down. Like it was like a 20-year-old playing against a 12-year-old. And you're like, that McKinnon is just different that way. Different than Connor, different than just about everybody who's so good but also so physical.
Yeah, his skating, that's the amazing thing. Like, McDavid never really got going. He had that one wind-up in the third Right, I want to say it was Sanheim. It was so fun. It was funny to watch because Sanheim was going back and kind of, I'll go get the puck, and you could hear McDavid saying like,
"I got
move."
it.
Yeah, exactly. Put it on a tee for me and get the hell out of the way. And he took off. McKinnon was I want to say it was Faber he was chasing down, and he was doing like the running on the beach, like picking up his stride to chase a guy down.
Dude, I'm telling you, man, the guy's he's the Black Stallion. You remember that movie, Black Stallion?
Yeah.
This
Crazy.
guy, he almost took down the building in Brossard, Quebec, the practice rink for the Habitants. He starts trucking out there, and the place starts shaking. I've never seen anything like it. It's obscene.
It's crazy how good of a skater he is. And McCarr, too. That's the thing about the three of them, right, Johnny? Like, the three of them, they all can skate better than anyone else.
You'll love this exchange. Okay, so I'm going to the final game yesterday. It's like 5, 6 o'clock, whatever. I'm heading to the game. And I get in the elevator of the hotel, and there's a woman there, and she's got like a Canadian scarf and a little Canadian hat on. I'm like, oh, yeah, you're cheering for Canada. That's cool. Where are you from? And she's like, I'm from Calgary. I'm like, oh, yeah, you're obviously going to the game? Yeah. Was it hard to get tickets? And she just kind of looks at me like real deadpan and says, I don't know. I'm like, oh, how did you get your tickets? Oh, my son's on the team. It was Cale Makar's mom.
No way.
It was awesome. And then she's like, oh, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I work on. She's like, and then we come down and meet the husband who was in the lobby waiting for her. And he's like, oh, Mike Johnson. And he was totally dialed in. Like, say hi to everybody at TSN. Like, he's like watches lots of sports. But, and I asked her, I'm like, are you guys nervous? They're like, no, not yet. And I'm like, well, why would you be? Because that kid of yours he's so good.
And he's got like a chip on his shoulder, man.
Yeah,
like
he's got an attitude problem, and I love every second of it.
But he also has the right amount of fearlessness. Because the game last night, it was cautious. It was conservative. It was safe. And I'm watching it intently. And Cale, when he has a chance, like he doesn't, he does it smartly, but he doesn't just concede, I'm just going to chip it in. He's like, no, I'm going to jump. And I think I can get it. If I don't, I'll get back. No big deal. He is wired to want to do it and not wait and not defer to somebody else. He wants to be the guy, and when he's as good as he is, he can often be that guy. He played 26 minutes in regulation and probably ended up at 32, 33 when it was all said and done. And never even looked tired once. Never even looked like he was out of breath.
Johnny, did you see that coming from Jordan Binnington last night? Like,
nope.
I'm sure a lot of people going into that game may have had some nervous energy about, when's that bad goal coming? Is it going to come at the wrong time? Is it going to be too much to overcome? And then he steals the show. What'd you make of Binnington and his performance?
I mean, hats off. And I'll own it. I was on record. I would have started Aiden Hill in the second game against America. I would have started him there and have options, Binnington or Hill. Everyone knows every single goalie in that tournament is good enough on one night to win a game by themselves. Every single guy. The question is, how many bad goals do you let in, or how often can you come up with that effort? And the whole exercise in the goaltending decisions for Canada was that John Cooper firmly believed that Jordan Binnington, when it mattered most, would find that game. And there was not a whole lot in the tournament and in his season that would lead you to believe, he'll ratchet it up and be incredible when it matters most. Because he's been good, but not even as good as last year in the net for St. Louis. And in the tournament, he's been okay, but he's, save percentage down at 880, whatever it was. But Cooper was almost defiant in the suggestion that he should do something else. And as you saw the hug that Cooper gave Binnington after the game, it was like the two of them saying, see, you believed in me, I believed in you, and we showed the world. I didn't see it coming, although I fully acknowledge, of course, he's good enough to do it. That game should have been over 4 times in overtime, easily. And now 3 of them would have been Auston Matthews scoring the goals. But he was, the backdoor pass from Gensel, honestly, Frankie, you, me, we expect to score that goal 7 out of 10 times. We expect to put that in the net. And let alone Austin, who expected to score it 97 times out of 100. And he took that away and made it look like it wasn't that big of a deal. The reach back on Brady, the glove save off the face-off, all of it was incredible stuff. So I did not see it coming. Kudos to him. He was actually at the airport this morning. He was dropping some family off that were coming up to Toronto. And, I think he just has that energy about him now where it's not so much about my stats, because the stats are, in the middle of the pack. It's about the wins, and he believes in himself that he's capable of that, and that maybe that's half the battle. And last night he showed it, deserved it. He should have been the MVP of the game. And I was watching you guys earlier when I got home, and you lock him up now. He's on the team next year for Italy 100%.
But Johnny, you stole my question right out of my mouth. When he put him in the headlock, did he say, "Come into my office, I got your plane ticket, you're the starting goalie in Italy next year"? Or did he say, "I got to see some more out of some other goalies, it might be a question mark next year in Italy"?
He said, "Make sure your passport is up to date, you're coming overseas." That's all he said.
Okay.
I don't think he gave him the starter's position just yet. But
Frankie did. Frankie did half an hour ago. He said he's your guy in the first game in the net. Not even declared it.
Wow.
I have declared it. Yeah.
Okay.
Hazy, do you declare it?
I'm willing to declare right now. Yeah, I would declare right now. I think he's worthy of that because of what he did last night. And again, it's not like the next Marty Brodeur is going to show up between now and next year. I think Logan Thompson, is a guy that's having a great run. We'll see what he does the rest of the way. And if he's still red hot, that'll be a legitimate conversation at that point. But
Mackenzie Blackwood is going, you're not like, well, we got to give it to him.
Exactly.
I'm just saying, I think he answered a lot of questions, a lot of doubters. I think he loves doing that. He's got that sort of chip to him. I was one of the guys who would have doubted him, 100%. I said several times that the three best goalies in the NHL from Canada were not in this tournament. All three of them, Kemper, Blackwood, and Thompson. But you know what? They picked Binnington because they thought he was gamer, winner, gutsy, whatever you want to say. And he proved to be last night that he was that. For that night, he was that. He proved them all correct.
With Mike Johnson. All right. You're playing the role of Auston Matthews. You're on the plane back to Toronto. What's running through your head?
And how much can I swear on radio? Like, honestly.
We don't care.
I mean,
you can say whatever you want.
No, but he would have to be beside himself. Absolutely. Like, obviously, Austin has nothing to be sort of ashamed. His career, his game, his presence in the league, his stature is all there. But what he hasn't had in his Hall of Fame career is like a moment, right? Like a moment that was his, that a player of his stature generally gets to have. And last night he was on his way to that moment in a massive, massive stage, like bigger than a Game 7 round 1. He gets the 2 assists. He's the captain of the team. There are all these sort of exterior ramifications and noise around the game. He's Captain America, and he's got the puck on his stick in overtime as this generation's greatest goal scorer, trying to make a case that he is the all-time greatest goal scorer in the history of this sport. And he couldn't find a way to do what he does better than anyone else. And like that train of thought going through your head over and over and over. And maybe he's incredibly strong mentally and he can like park the Binnington blocker save and park the glove save and park the rushed one that he went blocker side and just not worry about it. I would not be able to. That's what I would be thinking about. I can't believe I wasn't able to score. And I think he'd be thinking about that more than, I can't believe I chased Mitch Marner in the corner. I should have just sat in the middle, Fox was behind the net, like more than the defensive breakdown, which was his at the end of the game, primarily, more than the defenseman. It was his to own. But I think it's more, he never should have been in that spot. The game should have been over. He should have been getting carried around like he's Michael Ruzioni and Mike Modano, and then, put him on a stamp. And I think that kind of energy would be going through him. And maybe he gets out of his system in a week or 10 days or whatever, and he moves past it. And when he gets to the playoffs, he has his own next moment, and it's better for it. But that's a tough one. I can't. You guys were up here. I was down in the States for the last 5 days. And I can't. I've never in my life, and I've been in and out of the States for about 30 years now since college, seen the NHL get this much attention for anything. Anything ever has gotten this much attention in America as this tournament and last night's game.
Yep.
And that was the stage that all the players knew they were walking onto. And he had it there on his stick, right where he would want it, right where America would want it. And Binnington got the best of him. It's not like he didn't do it, just Binnington got the best of him. and that's what he's thinking about.
I felt I was sick for the guy, and ultimately it benefited me as a Canadian, as a fan, because he didn't close.
As a human,
yes, I felt for the guy. And here's another element to it. He's not going to Utah now. He's got to fly into Toronto, and the scrum's waiting for him, and they're going to ask him a million questions. You know, the Toronto media, and I'm curious how he responds and how he handles it tomorrow night. But you look at his career now, 0-7 in must-win games. In that building, he's 0-4, 18, 19, 24, 25. 3 of them for the Leafs. Last night for U.S. You know, is it snake bitten? Is it a gene that he's missing? Like, what is it with Matthews? And is there potential here? And I'm reluctant to even throw this out here because I've been waiting for it after playoff loss after playoff loss after playoff loss. But the fact that this is closer to the playoffs and the hurt could sting that much, could this inspire him to just be a machine come playoff time? Because I've never noticed them get pissed, really, or look like it when they've lost in the playoffs. The fact that this happened in February on this stage, like you said, it's so massive. The numbers are coming in on ESPN. It's like 9 million people, probably more for overtime. It's probably 11 or 12 million it peaked. For Americans, that's just a massive number for hockey. Are you a believer, or have we seen too much, that Matthews will take this and say, I'm not letting that happen again?
I mean, I believe in Auston Matthews, the athlete, and his strength of mind and his strength of character, and I don't think this is going to ruin him. But it's hard to say that, I guess you're saying, well, because the previous disappointments happened in the spring, by the time they got to the next spring, they were no longer fresh and sort of motivating. This one is so close, maybe it'll be still tangible and there to drive him. I don't know. I guess I don't want to believe that. If that was the case, I would be disappointed that he didn't channel that earlier in his career from all the other disappointments. So I'm going to say
I'll take it at some point, I guess is what I'm saying.
But I guess you watch all those games, and there's games he plays pretty well, and there's games where he does score in Game 7, but they just don't win it. Whatever the case may be, if you were to run like a mathematical probability formula that he would lose all those games you just talked about, given the quality of his play and his teams, it would almost be damn near impossible.
Seems that way.
Yeah.
Seems that way.
There he is. And that's that's not on him. That's, it's situational, but he is the best player on all those teams. So, people will turn to him. It's tough. It's just a tough situation. And there's no answer for it from me, from you, from him. There's only one answer. And that's you got to do it on the ice.
It's a weird one when you say, hey, it's not on him, but he's always there.
Yeah. But I think that's like I can't put it like, you are terrible in every game, and that's why they lose. That's not why. But the better way to put it, he hasn't been why they win. And that's what as the Leaf fans all be waiting for. Be the reason. Be the best player. Go get 4 points and a hat trick and win 4-2. Like, you're good enough to pull that off. And last night, he almost did. They almost won a 3-2 game against Canada and McDavid and Sid and all of it. Mm-hmm. And he had 2 points. He almost had the overtime goal and the 2 helpers on the 2 goals. Like, it would have been the
masterpiece.
Moment.
It's a masterpiece.
It would have been the moment that would secure his lore in American hockey history, maybe all of hockey history. And I would have been more confident, Hayes, if you would have said, does that success propel him differently in the playoffs, as opposed to does the failure or the lack of winning motivate him to do something different in the playoffs?
Well, Johnny, on the other hand, Mitch Marner has been right there with Auston Matthews in all these playoff defeats and all these big moments where these guys didn't win the big one. And guess what? Mitch Marner gets the game-winning assist in a big moment and has his best game of the tournament. So, what does that do for Mitch Marner? Having that and having that success, especially after a tournament where scores an overtime winner against Sweden, goes quiet, and then has a great game last night in a do-or-die, with the championship on the line.
It's almost like the opposite of the Leaf time, where he's generally pretty good, but in the biggest moments he can't get the offense. In this game, the biggest moments he got the offense, but otherwise was generally pretty average. So it's not the norm for him, but he will take the confidence he deserves and will walk out of that rink saying he'll come back, I guess, today, tomorrow's game, and will feel as though he has answered some critics. And I think for Mitch, who it feels as though maybe he hears some of the praise, some of the criticism more than some of the other high-end players for Toronto. Like, he hears it, maybe he listens to it more. He will hear the praise and he'll deserve it, and he will feel himself that he has now silenced some of the doubters, silenced some of the critics about his ability to get it done in big moments, his ability to score goals in big moments, because he did it. I mean, you think about it, they won 2 games in overtime in the tournament. Mitch was in on both of them and played a pivotal role. And I thought even beyond the assists, both super nice, he played really well last night. Like, he was comfortable with the puck. He was making plays. He had it and was more involved. Cooper recognized it and put him back up with McDavid, middle of the game, said, you know what, you're going. We want you with our best player, and we think it'll make it work. Like, he was good. So I think he should take the confidence into the rest of the season, and maybe when it gets tight in the first round, he'll be able to draw from a very recent, tight, pressurized, positive experience where he came through in the clutch, and that won't hurt him in the playoffs.
That's the plan, right? We knew going into the game, one of the Leafs would have a positive experience, the other would have a negative. We just weren't certain it was going to be so primary like that.
Yeah, but Hayes, if Canada wins and Mitch plays on the third check-in line with Cirelli and Hagel and plays 13 minutes and has 1 shot and no points, yes, it's a positive winning experience. But I don't think it resonates the same with him like he did, where he played well enough to move up, where he scored the primary assist on the tying and winning goal in overtime. Like, I think it's so much more than just, well, he was on the winning side because he was so involved in it.
Yeah, I agree. And conversely, you might say the same thing in a weird way about Matthews, is that he was so good and so on it that it was like, man, you had it. Like, you had that. And it's going to make it feel just that much more crushing.
Yeah. Who feels worse, Chris Kreider or Auston Matthews today? Auston.
Yeah,
right. The guy who plays a lot, the guy who had a chance to be the difference.
Yep, for sure. All right, Johnny. Welcome home. Enjoy your weekend.
All right,
we'll
boys.
do it again soon.
I'm off to my dad's birthday, turning Sidney Crosby today. So birthday dinner, shout out Ronnie, the coolest 87-year-old I know.
Yes, the king of Scarborough, Ronnie Johnson. We love it. Shout out, happy birthday.
What a handle,
boys.
Ronnie Johnson. That screams rich guy,
great
man.
handle.
Ronnie Johnson.
There's Mike Johnson, the son of Ron Johnson, joining us here on Maple Toyota Hotline. Count on Maple Toyota for the right winter tire package for your Toyota. Trade in your old tires, buy a new set, and get $40 back. Visit mapletoyota.com. All right, lock or not a lock coming up. We've also got Bruce Cassidy joining us just after 6. He was a part of obviously the coaching staff, and he was in Montreal and Boston, and now Vegas is getting right after it and getting after it quickly. So we'll get into a number of things with Bruce, and Dear Hazy be in about an hour. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, Bruce Cassidy in about a half an hour. Dear Hazy be in an hour. Leafs back in action tomorrow. The Raptors in action tonight. I saw Darko telling the media that his plan is to basically play a lot of guys, and it's all about growth. All the players have to grow, which means they're tanking, and they're going to do everything they can to lose as many games as they can. And they got 27 left, and I think they got to lose 20 of them in order to kind of stay in the same range that they're currently in.
Scotty Barnes, who is all-star.
That means you're getting your teeth kicked in on a nightly basis when you're saying, we're going to have to grow a little.
We got to play some guys here. That's the old, that's a weird rotation, but okay. I guess, we'll get dummied tonight and make
If I
sure
were him,
it
I wouldn't
continues.
even coach. I would honestly sit with management and make observations about what he likes and doesn't like. There's no coaching to do.
Yeah. And, it's going to be a one-off. They've signed Brandon Ingram. They brought him in. Next year he'll be healthy, you presume, Scotty, and whatever pick they get, and they're going to try to turn the corner quickly, and we'll see what comes of it. But 27 games left, and starting tonight with Miami in town. Leaves Carolina tomorrow. All right, lock or not lock? Okay, so we're going to go down the list, and obviously there's a number of guys that I'll name them, but we can all just quickly move on because we know who they are. They're locks. So this is based on the list that Doogie has sent me, right? So no rhyme or reason for the players that we're going to go through, but we're going to hit everyone, and we'll do it relatively quickly. If we have time, get to a couple of other players who were not on the team, whether it was due to injury or performance earlier in the year, what have you. Lock or not lock, this is a 3-man panel. You need 2 locks in order to be welcomed to the 2026 Olympic team, all right?
Yeah.
Let's begin here. Sam Bennett.
Lock.
I guess my vote is irrelevant. Welcome aboard. Welcome aboard. I don't think he's a lock. I don't think he's a lock.
Oh my God,
I don't
dude.
think he's. I think that tournament next year is going to be very different. I really actually am concerned about that. How great this was, how physical it was. That was a Stanley Cup playoff style.
Yeah.
That's not the Olympic Games, man.
But dude, if you think about a fourth line centerman, like if even on Olympic ice, whatever the hell the conditions are, who on earth other than Sam Bennett, unless it's the guy ahead of him in the lineup, is Cirelli. Like,
yeah, that's the question, right? Like, the first game, Bennett was out. They had Cirelli, then I think Point, McKinnon.
So let me get this straight. Were you going to say not lock?
I don't think he's a lock. I don't. I mean, let's be clear, guys. He was, again, the 13th forward the first game. He was unbelievable last night. I love Sam Bennett. He's not McDavid. Like, he's not. You can't. Not everyone can be a lock. Like, Bennett, I love this game. I just wonder if Hockey Canada will look at it and think, how does it translate to the Olympic Games? Double IHF rules. Hitting is really out of the game over there. It's not about big hits. And as fast as it was, I think it could be faster next year. So I would guess he's on the team. I just don't think he's a lock, but it doesn't matter. You guys have given him locks, so welcome aboard. He's in. All you need is two votes.
These should have been private ballots so we could reveal them.
That's
after.
actually a great point. Next year we'll do that. Next year we'll do that. All right, Anthony Cirelli, lock or not a lock?
I mean, if the coach is there, that's his guy. He seems like he's a lock, and he's he's a shutdown guy. He checks well. Mm-hmm. What did we just talk about? You need guys that can check.
Yep.
I think he's a lock.
I think he's a lock because his coach, like critical moments, starts of periods, big teams. That line went out there, man. All three of them.
I agree. I think he's a lock as well, even if it's 13 forward. I think they can bring 14 forwards to the Olympics.
He'll be one of them.
Like, it's tough to see Cirelli still in his prime with John Cooper as the coach not being on that team. All right, Sidney Crosby, lock, right? We'll just move on. Welcome aboard, Sid. Brandon Hagel.
As much as I don't like saying this, the fight was amazing. It was for the flag, but if Cooper, I don't know, you're bringing into play guys like Zach Hyman and possibly some other ones, and it might take somebody off the table, and he could be a casualty. Yeah. Like, how many checkers do you want? Like, Zach Hyman can check too.
Yeah, he's not a lock. Doesn't mean he won't make the team. Like, let's clarify that. We're not predicting they will or not. There's a difference between lock and not a lock. Hagel is not a lock. He's not a lock to be on the team next year.
Yeah.
Great group chat comment, though. You see him post that on Instagram, the group chat.
Amazing.
You know what I loved about that?
I love
it's that I think what he's saying with that is, we have one group chat. We don't have different little clicky group chats. The boys just talk in this one, and we all let it fly in the open.
I love it. Little jabs. All right, Seth Jarvis.
He's
good player, not a lock.
Yeah.
No, not a lock.
Not a lock.
Once again, you're talking about Hyman's, different people that you were surprised were not. Mark Scheifele, like, I'm telling you, Mark Scheifele in that tournament, he would not have been a question to come out of the lineup or be responsible or check or be competitive. That guy's a hell of a player, man.
Yeah, I agree. He's having a great year. I think he's in trouble to make it next year, though. If he didn't make this team, how's Scheifele going to make it next year?
Dude, I don't know. I'll have to talk to somebody, but what the hell's wrong with Mark Scheifele?
It's not about that. What I'm saying, it's not even about Scheifele. I'm saying Hockey Canada determined he's not on the team this year. A year older next year. This was about catapulting towards the Olympics. Like, that's what this was. I think they put players in place that they thought would be ready to play next year. And Scheifele's having a phenomenal year this year, and he didn't make this team. How's he going to make it next year?
Yeah. Well, I love Seth Jarvis, and I love his buddies driving across the country,
was awesome.
But I don't think he's a lock.
No, I agree. Seth Jarvis, not a lock. Travis Konechny.
Not a lock.
Not a lock. Didn't play last night, not a lock.
Yeah.
Nathan McKinnon, lock. Brad Marchand.
Not a lock.
Not a lock. No.
Not a lock.
Not a lock. Brad Marchand's a great player. Love everything he represents, but you can't just say he's a shoo-in for next year. Like, there were times where it looked a little too fast.
Yeah.
And that's not a knock on it's not a knock on Marchand. It's just the reality of how fast that
Dude,
game
the guy's
was going.
no kid anymore. He's not Sid the Kid, and he's probably 37, 30. Is he 30?
Yeah, he's 37, I believe.
Yeah, he's going to be 37. I mean, everything comes to an end. But if there was ever a situation where I could bring a guy, a current player, and I don't know what he would think of this, like to be in a non-playing role, to just be around, I would ask the guy.
Well, that's the thing. Like, again, if it's a 14-forward scenario, this guy was one of the 6 they announced originally on
Totally
the team.
get it, Hayes. I totally get it.
Now, that was a year ago, and it was in Boston, and I think that factored in. But he's got the Sid connection. He's got the McKinnon connection. I think he's really important in that room. By the end, he was the 4th line. He was probably the 12th forward, close to it last night.
Yeah.
Like, he wasn't – he did look like it was a little bit over his head. But I think he might be a lock. I think he might be because of who he is.
What the hell are you just – did you not hear us just talk?
Yes. And you're entitled to your opinions. But this guy, Hockey Canada, loves this guy. They love him. And they love what he represents. So I don't know.
Pencil him in. Pencil.
Well,
actually,
you guys
he didn't
already
make
voted
it
him out.
We said
you voted him out.
But you got him. You got him penned in. Like, that's perfect.
He just said, "I really think this." He talked to him, so he's like, "This at times it looked overwhelming for him, but you know what? He's a lock."
I don't know. Listen,
he would have to get off to a
He'd have to get off to a great
start.
start.
Dude,
He'd
you
have to
bring
have a
that
great
like
start.
what O said. Maybe you bring him as just like he's not a player. He's just a team glue guy. He's just a
Okay, but then he's got to be on the team.
around.
He's not coming over as a mascot.
Just tell him you give him $200 cash to come over and.
Dude, not happening. Not happening. I mean, he's either on the team or he's not. Mitch Marner.
Lock.
He locked himself up last night.
Yeah,
He really
and John
did.
Cooper loves him. And you know what's interesting about that? I always thought it was a little bit lip service because John Cooper understands the game, the game within the game. He knows how to play up to the Toronto media. So I'm like, maybe he's just, saying things that aren't exactly genuine. No, this guy loves Mitch Marner. He really believes it, and we saw it with the way he kind of deployed him.
Yeah, he's a lock. He was likely a lock anyway. Again, like you said, the way they love this guy, the way he plays, he's in his prime. But he played really well last night, factored into everything, looked very comfortable. I think he'll be even more comfortable, likely in the double IHF, IOC type of world too, right? You're in Europe, you're out of North America. Marner's a lock. All right, McDavid's a lock, Point's a lock. Mm-hmm. I think Reinhardt's a lock. I think he is. Are you guys okay? Sam Reinhardt, come aboard.
I don't think he's a lock. I think he's going to have to continue to play well to stay on that team.
So you're okay. I think Reinhardt's a lock. You're Frankie. You're saying not a lock. Oh, you have the choice to either say come and join us and sit over here, Sam Reinhardt, or take a hike, and you are no longer a part of this program.
Tutto bene. Welcome to Italia. You're on the squad. You're on the squad.
Yeah.
Benvenuto.
Listen, the guy. He's a winner. He's a goal scorer. He's a smart player. He's a depth guy on this team.
Yeah.
But
let's not sugarcoat this. He did not play well.
He didn't have a great.
No, he didn't have a great tournament.
Run. He didn't.
No.
But I still think
he was put in some butter zone spots, like
okay.
bumper on the power play with those turkeys out there, like
PP1. That guy Sam Reinhardt's
PP1, and it's like
it.
Yeah.
And you would think he would hear his name. He had that great assist against Finland with the McDavid goal, but I don't think he had a great tournament, man. I don't think he had a great tournament.
Okay. I don't see Mark Stone up there. I don't know why. Let's throw him out there lastly. Mark Stone, before we break, we'll come back and do defensemen and goalies. Mark Stone, lock or not lock?
I don't have him as a lock. I really don't. I think in a position, if you're the guy in the must-win game that you get bumped down a bit, I just think it puts you in a position to be not a lock. I don't believe that he is a lock.
I would agree. I don't have him as a lock because there's also guys that will be able to do what he does. And maybe they're a little more fleet of foot, and maybe that's what you want, but not a lock at this point.
Yeah, I don't think it's a lock either. Also, his health, it's almost impossible to predict whether or not it'll be at 100%, what it's going to look like. He's such a crafty, smart player, though, man. Cooper and that staff, they love him. Like, they love him. But, yeah, he's not young anymore. He's not 24 or 25. So I don't think Stone is a lock. All right, we'll come back, rifle through some defensemen, the goalies, and we got Bruce Cassidy coming up, Mark Stone's head coach. He'll join us in 20 minutes. Dear Hazy B in 45. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, Bruce Cassidy in 15. We got Dear Hazy B coming up, continuing lock or not a lock for the Canadian Olympic edition next year. We've already welcomed a number of people in to the club. Welcome aboard. Go sit down over there. And there's been some controversy, some back and forth, and some debate on some of these players as well. Let's get a few defensemen out of the way that we don't need to waste time on. Cale Makar, obviously a lock.
His partner, too.
I was going to say Devon Taves. The two of them are playing together. Like, they're going to play together. They're a lock. I think Doughty's a lock. Personally, you guys push back. I think Drew Doughty's a lock.
He's a lock.
I think he's a lock. Oh, you're quiet over there. Guelph Storm
Drew
guy.
Doughty, he played him. If he starts off slow next year, he puts himself under the gun. But as of right now, that performance last night, all the defense corps stepped up. They lost Shea Theodore, man. That guy's a good player.
Big time. And I just think Doughty, he's the ultimate Canadian. Like, he's just a guy you need in those games. He's always comfortable. Always. When it was 2010 and he was like 21 years old, he was comfortable. He's still comfortable now. All right. Thomas Harley, lock or not a lock?
Lock. Big time lock. Yes,
Wow.
This guy is on the team. He was one of their best players last night.
He was great.
One of their best players, not one of their best
Yes.
defensemen, one of their best players
And
last
Saturday
night.
at the Bell Center, I thought he was great.
Yeah.
But the guy wasn't even on the team, and we're giving a lock vote for Frankie. Oh, where are you at?
As crazy as this sounds, and as much respect as I have for that guy, I don't have him as a lock. I think he's one of those guys where, again, if he starts off and doesn't have a great start to the season, you know what? I'm locking him in. Wow. Welcome to Italy.
Look at you
Buonanotte.
guys. He's not a lock, but I get outvoted again. What I will say is he's got a great opportunity with Heiskanen out in Dallas. Now he's the number one guy on the left side down there.
Let me just say this about the guy, Hazy. This tournament could catapult him into great things.
He looked great, man.
Yeah.
He looks so good. And it's
it.
not about taking anything away from the guy. It's that there's only so many amount of spots. You can't have everyone be a lock. There's always turnover.
No, I got it. I got it mapped out. I got my 7. So
all right.
we'll get through it.
What about Josh Morrissey? Something we haven't talked about that he didn't play last night due to illness.
Bizarre, man.
Do you know how sick you would have to be? Like, he actually would have had to watch that game on the toilet or, like, hugging the toilet.
Yes.
Full-blown Harry Dunn nail clippings.
Have to. Is Morrissey a lock?
Yes. He was incredible the games that he played.
Yeah, he's a lock.
Lock. I agree.
Yeah.
Welcome aboard. Step aside.
Yeah.
Colton Parayko.
Not a lock.
This is ridiculous. Like, you've got to do this exercise with some thought and some intent.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say not a lock because all these guys can't be locks again next year.
He's not a lock.
I would say not a lock because a number
but
of
if
different
Dougie
reasons.
Armstrong's in charge,
He is in charge. He is, and he loves Parayko. And
Parayko,
and
it's his guy, and he
good.
brings a different element. But what does that look like on big ice?
Yeah, but also think about this. Makar's your top pair right-handed guy, and what if Petro and Doughty are also available to you?
Well,
it's like, where does
Pietrangelo a
Parayko
lock?
fit in?
If Pietrangelo's healthy, is he a lock?
I think
he's
so.
a lock.
I
He's
really
a
do
lock.
think so.
Yeah.
And here's a question. If you had to pick between Parayko and Doughty, who are you taking?
Doughty. I'm not playing Doughty. Like, I don't know what this guy needs to do or show for anyone to ever question this guy's ability in big games. Like, he plays without a pulse, and he takes hits. He got smoked again last night. Kachuk got him again. Brady buried him behind the net.
He doesn't care,
He
man.
does not care. He just gets up.
He's old school.
He's old school.
He
And
is.
look at where he is in the line. Like, little stuff. You've noticed he's right in the middle of everything. Like, there's something about him. Well, Pietrangelo, okay, yeah. I've gone back and forth. I wonder if he looks back on this now saying, I made a big mistake. What was I thinking not playing in this? Like, how did I miss that when it turned out to be what it was in the end? And, Vegas will resume play on Saturday, I believe. He's playing. He'll play 27 minutes tomorrow and didn't choose to play in the tournament. But I think he will be a lock because of who he is and what he's done. All right, Travis Sanheim.
Not a lock.
Not a lock. I don't think he's a lock.
I agree.
Although I was pleasantly surprised with Travis Sanheim.
I thought Sanheim was really good. Like his skating ability is he's a really smooth,
really good player.
Plays
really
both
good
sides,
player.
versatile.
And
Shea
he's
Theodore's
lengthy
a lock.
and he's rangy and he's. I liked him, but I just can't call him a lock.
No, I think he could be on the team, but it's not a lock. And Theodore, I would say, is a lock as well. I think you could be looking at like Taves, McCarr, Morrissey, Doughty, Theodore
Petro, and who was the seventh that we said?
Well, you guys
Thomas
said Thomas Harley.
Thomas Harley's your seventh. There's your 7D right there.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but guys, there's also like a full season ahead of guys that can go up or down. Like,
well,
I think we were a little bit too horned up on the locks. That's my one takeaway.
Up on these.
You guys are horny. I'm pushing back on guys, and you're like, "How could you? How dare you?" I'm like, you guys gave locks to everybody. You're just handing out roses."
Okay, well,
I know. We thought
Evan
it was
Bouchard,
Brazzers or not.
Is Evan Bouchard going to play over Doughty, Petro, McCarr, or Parayko?
Doesn't seem like it the way they operate.
Same with Noah Dobson.
Yep.
Dude, you know what I like about the D? With those top two guys, you're looking for four guys to fill in slots, man, because those other two cats play the whole game.
Yeah, exactly. Like you just fill out your roster and
work backwards like that, man. Like who's knocking those guys out? That's why I think those guys are locks.
And again, that's the thing up front. Like, could Hyman get in there? Yes. You know, we mentioned Scheifele. Could Nick Suzuki have a great start next year and play himself into a role where he knocks Bennett out? You know, I don't know, or Konechny out, something like that. There's going to be battles, and there's going to be turnover. That's just the nature of it. It's never the same team, ever. All right, Bruce Cassidy in the next hour. Dear Hazy B coming up. Final hour. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2.